Your soulmate is crying with happiness right now, and the reason is not what anyone around them expected. At 8:41 this morning, they were standing alone inside the restoration room of Whitmore and Vale when their phone vibrated against a wooden worktable. The building was not open yet. White cloth covered several antique frames waiting for repair. Morning light came through the high windows, and beside your soulmate sat an old silver pocket watch that had once belonged to their grandfather. They glanced at the notification. Then they stopped moving. It was an announcement from the Northbridge Institute of Art Conservation. One sentence appeared beneath your photograph: "We are pleased to welcome our new senior restoration fellow." Your soulmate stared at your name. Then they sat down. Their sister, Elise, entered the room carrying coffee and found them crying so hard they could barely speak. Elise immediately thought something terrible had happened. "What is it?" Your soulmate turned the phone toward her. Elise read the announcement. Then she frowned. "They're leaving?" Your soulmate nodded. "For a year. And you're happy about that?" Your soulmate laughed through the tears. "Yes." Elise stared at them. "Why?" Your soulmate looked at your photograph again. Then they whispered, "Because they finally chose the life they kept putting on hold for me." That is the first part of the reason your soulmate is crying with happiness. But it is not the whole reason. Because you had been offered that fellowship once before. Almost 18 months ago. You turned it down. Everyone believed you rejected it because your relationship with your soulmate mattered more. That was only partly true. You turned it down because Whitmore and Vale was about to collapse, your soulmate's family was in trouble, and you believed leaving would mean abandoning the person you loved when they needed you most. Your soulmate knew that. What you did not know was how deeply they had hated themselves for allowing you to make that choice. And what nobody told you was that for almost a year, your soulmate had been quietly trying to undo the one decision their family made that kept your future tied to theirs. That truth begins inside Whitmore and Vale. The company had been restoring paintings, manuscripts, antique furniture, and private collections for nearly 70 years. Your soulmate's grandfather, Arthur Vale, began with one rented room and a workbench. He had the unusual belief that restoration should never make an old object look new. He used to say, "If you erase every scar, you erase the evidence that something survived." Your soulmate grew up hearing that sentence. Whitmore and Vale eventually became respected enough to work with museums, universities, churches, collectors, and private estates. Your soulmate's father, Charles, handled business. Their mother, Mary Ann, oversaw restoration. Elise managed client relations. And your soulmate became one of the youngest specialists in the company's history. Everyone assumed they would eventually take control. You entered their life because Whitmore and Vale had been hired to restore an extraordinary private collection belonging to the Halden family. More than 80 pieces. Paintings. Letters. Rare books. Furniture. The contract was worth enough money to stabilize the company for almost 2 years. You were brought in as an independent provenance and conservation specialist because several pieces had incomplete histories. Your first meeting with your soulmate lasted less than 20 minutes before the two of you disagreed. They wanted to begin cleaning a 19th-century portrait. You wanted additional testing. They told you the surface damage was obvious. You said, "The obvious part is usually what people ruin first." They stared at you. "What exactly do you think I'm going to ruin?" You looked at the painting. "I'll tell you after the tests." Your soulmate disliked you for approximately 4 hours. Then the tests revealed a second layer of paint beneath the visible varnish. The portrait had been altered decades earlier. Cleaning it aggressively would have removed evidence critical to its history. Your soulmate found you later. "You knew?" "I suspected." "Why didn't you just say that?" "Because suspicion gets louder when someone says it confidently." They laughed. That was the beginning. You became part of the restoration team. Your soulmate started asking for your opinion before touching difficult pieces. You began staying late. One evening, both of you spent 6 hours trying to remove a tiny section of adhesive from an illuminated manuscript. At almost midnight, your soulmate said, "I think this is the least romantic thing two people could possibly do together." You looked at the manuscript. "Speak for yourself." They laughed. Then you kissed them. The relationship developed quietly. Coffee beside work tables. Museum trips that turned into dates. Arguments over whether damaged frames should be repaired or preserved. Sunday dinners with the Vale family. Your soulmate showed you Arthur's silver pocket watch, which no longer worked but remained inside the restoration room because Marianne refused to repair it. She said Arthur liked carrying it even after it stopped. You asked why. Your soulmate answered, "He said a broken clock still remembers what time meant." You never forgot that. Within a year, your life and Whitmore and Vale had become deeply connected. Perhaps too deeply. Because the first warning arrived inside the Halden collection. You discovered that 3 paintings had provenance documents carrying the same handwriting despite supposedly being written decades apart. You asked Charles about it. He said the Halden family had probably reconstructed the records. You wanted independent verification. Charles resisted. The Halden contract was too valuable. Your soulmate supported you. At first. Then another problem appeared. Whitmore and Vale had expanded aggressively before the Halden project. Charles borrowed money. Equipment had been purchased. A new storage wing had been leased. If the Halden family cancelled the contract, the company could fail. Charles told your soulmate, "We need time. Not accusations." You answered, "Time doesn't make false paperwork real." Charles disliked that sentence. Then a representative for the Halden family arrived. His name was Marcus Halden. Polished. Calm. Always respectful. Marcus said the provenance concerns were minor administrative issues. He offered Whitmore and Vale an additional contract if everyone avoided unnecessary delays. You refused to sign the final authenticity report. Marcus began speaking privately to Charles. Then privately to your soulmate. He never called you difficult. He said something more effective. They're very principled. Your soulmate agreed. Marcus smiled. Principled people sometimes forget other people have consequences too. That sentence began working on them. Not immediately. But pressure grew. Whitmore and Vale missed payroll for several senior employees. Mary Ann became ill. Elise postponed her wedding because family finances were unstable. Charles began telling your soulmate that your caution could destroy 70 years of work. Your soulmate defended you. Then Charles showed them something you had not told them yet. An email from Northbridge Institute. You had been invited to apply for a prestigious 12-month restoration fellowship abroad. Your soulmate stared at it. Charles asked, "Did you know?" "Yes." "Are they leaving?" "They haven't decided." Charles laughed bitterly. "So while we're fighting to survive, they're preparing an exit." Your soulmate said that was unfair. Charles replied, "Then ask them." They did. You told them the truth. Northbridge had approached you. You wanted the opportunity. It had been a dream for years. But you had not accepted. Your soulmate asked, "Because of me?" You hesitated. That hesitation became the answer. You said, "Because everything here is happening at once." That isn't what I asked. You looked at them. I'm not leaving you inside a disaster. Your soulmate should have felt loved. Instead, something inside them hurt. Because they knew exactly what was happening. You were beginning to sacrifice your own future because their family could not stabilize theirs. They said, "I don't want you to stay because of me." You answered, "I'm staying because I choose to." Your soulmate whispered, "That doesn't mean I have to like what the choice costs you." The conversation ended there. Then the Halden situation exploded. Independent testing revealed that one of the paintings was not merely poorly documented. It was likely stolen. Its ownership history contained a 27-year gap. You reported the finding. Marcus became furious. He told Charles that if the report became public, the Halden family would terminate every contract. Charles begged you to delay. You refused. Your soulmate stood beside you. For the first time, the family conflict became open. Charles accused you of valuing your reputation more than the company. You answered, "My reputation is not the reason stolen work belongs to somebody else." Marcus threatened legal action. Then something worse happened. A confidential database containing Halden ownership records was accessed using your credentials after midnight. Several files were copied. Marcus accused you of taking private information. You denied it. Access logs showed your account. You told Charles someone had used your credentials. He did not believe you. Your soulmate did. But belief became complicated when Marcus produced security footage showing you entering Whitmore and Vale that evening. You had You came back to retrieve your notebook. You stayed 14 minutes. Your soulmate asked, "Did you open the database?" "No, are you sure?" You looked at them. That question hurt. They immediately regretted it. But it was already spoken. The Halden family suspended the contract. Whitmore and Vale's lenders panicked. Charles blamed you publicly inside the company. Several employees stopped speaking to you. Then Northbridge contacted you again. The fellowship position was still open. You turned it down. Your soulmate discovered that only afterward. They came to your apartment. You declined it? Yes. Why? You know why. Their expression changed. No. I need you to say it. You became frustrated. Because your family is about to lose everything. They are not your responsibility. You are. Your soulmate looked as though you had struck them. You softened. That's not what I meant. Yes, it is. They walked toward the window. Then, I don't want to become the reason you keep shrinking your life. You're not. You just rejected something you wanted because my father is drowning. I rejected it because I am not going to disappear while you're standing in the middle of this. Your soulmate turned. And what happens next year? Another crisis? Another reason? You did not answer. Because neither of you knew. That night, your soulmate made a private decision. They would prove your innocence. They hired a digital forensic specialist without telling Charles. The specialist discovered something important. Your account had been accessed remotely from an internal administrative machine. That machine belonged to Charles's office. Your soulmate confronted their father. Charles denied everything. Then he admitted something smaller. He had given Marcus temporary access to the office during a meeting. Marcus could have used the computer. Your soulmate went cold. Why would Marcus frame you? Because if you were discredited, your stolen property report became easier to challenge. Your soulmate wanted to expose him immediately. Charles stopped them. If Marcus was accused before stronger evidence existed, the Halden family could sue Whitmore and Vale into bankruptcy. Charles asked for time. Your soulmate agreed. That decision cost your relationship. Because while your soulmate investigated privately, you saw only silence. Charles told employees the access issue remained unresolved. Marcus continued implying you had stolen records. And your soulmate did not publicly defend you. You asked, "You believe me, don't you?" Yes. Then why does nobody know that? They could not tell you about the private investigation. So they said, "I need a little more time." You laughed once. How much of my life are people allowed to damage while you collect enough certainty to say what you already know? They had no answer. You resigned from Whitmore and Vale. Then you ended the relationship. Not because you stopped loving them. Because love was beginning to feel like another project you had to survive. Your final conversation happened inside the restoration room. Arthur's broken pocket watch sat on the table. Your soulmate was crying. They said, "I never wanted you to lose yourself here." You answered, "I know." Then why are you leaving me? Because staying is becoming another way I keep choosing everyone except myself. Your soulmate closed their eyes. That sentence stayed with them. You left. 3 weeks later, digital investigators proved Marcus had accessed the database. Further evidence showed the Halden family had knowingly hidden questionable provenance. Authorities became involved. The stolen painting was returned to the descendants of its original owner. Your name was cleared. Whitmore and Vale survived, but barely. Charles resigned. The Halden contract disappeared. The company sold its new storage facility and reduced operations. Your soulmate finally had the truth they wanted. But you were gone. They contacted Northbridge. They asked whether the fellowship could still be offered to you. The director said no. That year's position had been filled. Your soulmate cried after hanging up. They believed your chance had been lost because of them. Then came the second problem. When you left Whitmore and Vale, Charles had activated a clause in your old consulting agreement. A non-compete provision. It restricted you from working on certain private collections connected to Whitmore clients for 18 months. The clause was unusually broad. You challenged it. Charles refused to release you. Your soulmate was furious. They told him, they already lost enough because of this family. Charles said, they signed the contract. Your soulmate answered, they signed it before you let someone use their name to protect yours. That argument broke what remained between parent and child. Your soulmate hired their own attorney. They offered to purchase your contract rights from Whitmore and Vale. Charles refused. So your soulmate used the inheritance Marianne had left them to buy enough of Charles's ownership stake to force a board vote. Elise supported them. The non-compete was released. You were never told who caused it. Your attorney simply informed you that Whitmore and Vale had withdrawn enforcement. You assumed the company was correcting an obvious mistake. Your soulmate let you believe that. Because they had finally learned something from you. Doing the right thing did not mean you were entitled to use it as a reason someone should return. Months passed. You rebuilt your work. Whitmore and Vale became smaller but healthier. Employees gained minority ownership. Your soulmate rejected Charles's old executive role and continued working only as a restorer. Then Northbridge announced another fellowship. This time, your soulmate did nothing. They did not call. They did not ask the Institute to contact you. They did not ask Elise whether you had applied. They refused to make another decision around your future. But secretly, they hoped. Every morning, they checked the Institute's website. Nothing. Weeks passed. The application deadline arrived. Your name did not appear anywhere. Your soulmate told themselves it was none of their business. Then something unexpected happened. A package arrived at Whitmore and Vale. Inside was Arthur's silver pocket watch. You had taken it for examination years earlier with permission and returned it before the breakup, or so everyone thought. But this was a different watch. A nearly identical piece had been found in Arthur's old collection. The note attached to it was from a retired conservator named Ruth Bell. Ruth had mentored you years earlier. She wrote, "They asked me to return this because they finally accepted Northbridge and will not be here to finish the comparison study." Your soulmate read the sentence. Finally accepted Northbridge. They called Ruth. Accepted what? Ruth became quiet. Then realized your soulmate had not known. The fellowship. Your soulmate sat down. When? Yesterday. That should have been enough to make them happy. It was not yet the reason they broke down crying. Ruth continued. You know they almost didn't apply. Your soulmate's heart sank. Why? They thought accepting would feel like running away again. Your soulmate closed their eyes. Ruth said, I told them there is a difference between leaving because you are afraid and leaving because you are finally free. Then Ruth revealed something your soulmate had never known. Months after your breakup, you had discovered the non-compete was lifted. You suspected your soulmate might have been involved. You asked Ruth whether contacting them to say thank you would be appropriate. Ruth asked, do you want to thank them or do you want a reason to reopen the door? You did not answer. So you stayed silent. Your soulmate began crying. Not because you still loved them. Ruth did not say that. But because even after everything, both of you had started doing the same difficult thing. Stopping yourselves from turning care into pressure. Then Ruth said, there's something else. When you applied to Northbridge this time, the Institute asked for examples of your most difficult ethical work. You included the Halden case. Not to attack Whitmore and Vale. Not to attack Charles. You wrote about your own mistake. Your statement said, I confused loyalty with endurance. I believed remaining in a harmful situation proved commitment. It took me too long to understand that preserving something valuable does not require preserving every structure around it. Your soulmate asked Ruth to repeat that sentence. She did. Your soulmate started crying harder. Because it sounded like Arthur. If you erase every scar, you erase the evidence that something survived. For years, your soulmate had believed restoration meant holding on. You had both learned something different. Sometimes restoration requires releasing what cannot continue in its old form. This morning, the official Northbridge announcement appeared. That was what Elise found your soulmate reading. But Elise still did not understand why they were smiling. She asked, do you want them to go? Your soulmate answered, yes. Even if it means you might not see them for a year? Yes. What if they meet someone else? Your soulmate's smile disappeared for a moment. That can happen. And you're still happy? Your soulmate looked at the announcement again. Then, because for the first time, they made a decision that wasn't organized around what my family needed, what Whitmore needed, or what I might feel. Elise sat beside them. Your soulmate continued, they chose themselves. That was the thing your soulmate had secretly needed you to do. Not because they wanted to lose you. Because they could never imagine asking you to return while knowing your life was still smaller because of them. Then Elise gave them one final document. She had been reviewing the ownership changes Charles signed months earlier. Your soulmate had believed the money used to release your non-compete was entirely theirs. It was not. The company had returned most of it. Why? Because an anonymous payment had covered Whitmore and Vale's legal restructuring costs. The payment came from a settlement connected to the Halden investigation. The named beneficiary who redirected it to the company was you. Your soulmate stared at the page. You had been entitled to compensation after your name was falsely implicated. Instead of keeping all of it, you directed part of the settlement toward employee severance and restructuring. There was one condition. None of the money could be used to restore Charles's ownership position. Your soulmate whispered, they helped save Whitmore? Elise nodded. After everything? Yes. Why didn't anybody tell me? Because they specifically asked us not to. Then Elise handed them a copy of your instruction. At the bottom, you had written, this is not an investment and creates no right of control, repayment, recognition, or future access. Your soulmate stared at those words. No future access. You protected something they loved while refusing to use that protection as a key back into their life. That was the deeper reveal. Your soulmate had secretly freed your future by removing the contract that restricted you. And you had secretly helped free their family company from the financial wreckage created by the people who had hurt you. Two people who were no longer together had been quietly removing chains from each other's lives. Neither asked for ownership. Neither asked for credit. Neither knew whether love would ever return. Your soulmate covered their face. Elise asked, "Are you okay?" They laughed through the tears. "I think I finally am." Later this afternoon, your soulmate went into the restoration room alone. They picked up Arthur's original broken pocket watch. For years nobody had repaired it. Today they opened the back. Inside was a tiny engraving they had never noticed. 2 words, "Keep moving." Your soulmate laughed. Then cried again. They opened their phone. Your old conversation remained archived. The last message from you was months old. They started typing, "I saw the Northbridge announcement." Deleted. Then, "I'm proud of you." They kept that one for a moment. Deleted again. It sounded as though your choice required their approval. Finally, they wrote, "I heard your news today, and I wanted you to know it made me happy." That stayed. Then, not because I want distance between us. Not because I stopped loving you. But because there was a time when you kept making your future smaller to stay close to problems that belonged to my family. They paused. Then wrote, "I used to think the greatest proof of love was staying. I don't believe that anymore." Another pause. The fact that you can leave now without abandoning yourself may be one of the best things I could have hoped for you. Your soulmate stared at the message. Then added, I also learned what you did with part of the Halden settlement. You protected employees here without asking for anything from Whitmore or from me. I won't turn that into proof that you want this relationship again. Then the hardest sentence, I still love you. They did not delete it. But they changed what came after. I still love you, and I am finally learning that love can be true without becoming a claim. Your soulmate read the entire message. Elise entered quietly. Are you going to send it? Your soulmate nodded. Then hesitated. What if it distracts them before they leave? Elise smiled. Then don't ask for anything. That was the answer. Your soulmate added, you don't need to reply before you go. You don't need to make any decision about us. I only wanted you to know that seeing your name beside something you once wanted made me happier than I expected. Then, go. They stared at that word. It felt frightening. It also felt like love. Go do the thing you almost lost because all of us needed too much from you. And finally, if one day you come back and there is still a conversation between us, I would like that. But this time I want you to return because you chose to, not because something here needed saving. Your soulmate pressed send. No immediate reply appeared. They did not keep refreshing the screen. Instead, they placed Arthur's watch on the work table and returned to a damaged painting they had been restoring all week. An hour passed. Then their phone vibrated. One message. From you. Your soulmate froze. They opened it. It contained only 2 sentences. Thank you for saying that. I almost didn't accept. Then, maybe when I come back, we can finally talk somewhere that doesn't need either of us to fix it. Your soulmate read those words. Once. Twice. Then they covered their mouth and started crying again. Elise saw from across the room. She did not ask what the message said. She only watched your soulmate smile. There is no reunion yet. No promise. No guarantee that a year from now both of you will want the same future. You are still leaving. Your soulmate is staying. Whitmore and Vale will continue rebuilding. Charles is no longer in control. The Halden scandal is over. Your name is clear. The contract that once restricted you is gone. And the opportunity you sacrificed once has returned. This time, you took it. That is why your soulmate is crying with happiness. Not because you chased them. Not because you proved your love. Not because you rescued their family one more time. Because you finally did the thing they secretly needed you to do long before either of you understood it. You stopped making your future the price of loving them. You chose the opportunity. You chose movement. You chose the version of yourself that existed before crisis taught you to keep waiting. And now, for the first time, if love ever brings both of you back into the same room, neither person will have to wonder whether somebody sacrificed their entire life to get there. Arthur's broken pocket watch is still sitting on the restoration table tonight. It still does not keep time. Your soulmate has decided not to repair it. They finally understand why their grandfather never did. Some things do not need to return to exactly what they were in order to remain valuable. Sometimes the scar matters. Sometimes the distance matters. Sometimes what survives is not the old version. It is something more honest. Your soulmate is happier than ever right now. Your photograph is still on the Northbridge announcement. Their message is still on your phone. Your reply is still on theirs. And for once, nobody is asking either of you to decide the ending today. You are going. They are letting you. They still love you. And somewhere beneath all that uncertainty is one quiet possibility neither of you is trying to force anymore. When you come back, there may finally be two people standing there who chose each other only after learning how to choose themselves.